Buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches.
Buenos dias.
Toufii, how's it going? I'm kind of curious, real quick, before we get started. People think that maybe there's not a lot for you to do during the day. How many meetings do you go to on a normal day? How many meetings do you do?
Right. Well, given that I'm trying to address the immediate bottlenecks and future bottlenecks that we could be hitting, I feel like I need to find a way to reduce the amount of meetings, because what happens, like, for example, yesterday went meetings, and then I still have to do my work, and I'm extremely passionate about my work. Like, I write the actual algorithms for folks. Like, I still write the actual algorithm, I write the pseudocode. So it's not like I'm sitting with the engineers and listening. I'm actually like a heavy contributor to almost every aspect of the engineering. And that's the stuff that I excel at. So I cannot not do it. So yesterday, despite being like super duper exhausted, there's like certain gratification when you actually sit down and start doing work and start seeing it coming nicely together, and running some sort of like forecast and testing and see if it would make sense, and when wouldn't make sense, what kind of attack vectors we would think of, and so on and so forth. And ended up like working until dawn. And then I realized that I don't have the 3 hours to sleep, because sometimes you'd think that you sleep like, because I sleep in 90 minutes interval. So I had 90 minutes to sleep, but I'm happy. I don't think in any complaining way. It's actually super exciting to be doing this. So I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. So,
well, you heard it here first. Toufii gets one sleep cycle.
You know what? Yeah, this is it's. But it's last weekend, I was able to get 2 of those long 9 hours. I
Oh,
usually get it once
amazing.
a week. So I was like, dude, like I'm extremely rejuvenated. So I feel like the energy is back on, and like perhaps I might even skip this weekend of getting the 9 hours. So I'm excited.
So we've been doing this each week, and this is just a way to bring the community up to speed on what's going on with you guys. Obviously, it's not everything, because there are all sorts of inside baseball reasons why you can't disclose everything, but the stuff that you can disclose,
Right.
it's great for people to catch up. And that's what we're doing this week in Hypercycle. Now, this week, I know a lot of people in the chat groups, things like that, have been saying, what's going on with HyperPG, man? What's going on? So what can you tell us about HyperPG?
Well, just a bit of background for what is HyperPG and why does HyperPG exist. And it started with this partnership with one of our clients that all they want to do is build HPC, high performance computing. And the reason why we thought together with them we can create an HyperPG, because they want to build high performance computing. We provide what is hypercycle. Hypercycle, if you were to net it down to folks that they build high performance computing or any AI computing, it gives them the ability to have their AI to become more intelligent and their AI to make more money. Effectively, that's what it boils down to. So then HyperPG comes in and says, like, okay, Hypercycle, I hear you have 5 beneficiaries. How can we glue them together? Somebody needs to glue them together. Should that be an external party completely, or maybe would that be like that joint venture that you built with these guys? And we felt that it's a good opportunity that HyperPG is doing that, gluing together and finding ways of how it can benefit from doing that, because you want to have an entity that it's profitable at the end of the day, but at the same time, not to become extractive. It only benefits if the participants are benefiting. And if the participants, they're benefiting more elsewhere, they will not come to HyperPG. So it has to play in the delta. So as you know, many people know, The very first pool in HyperPG is that pool that enable the token holders to put their tokens in it. Of course, there are many other pools because to glue the pieces together, there's the pool for the licenses that it's being built. And what does the pool for license mean? Well, remember, as of now, we've sold 253,000 licenses, okay? Each and every one of those licenses demands 1,024 HYPC. That's huge. So just to turn on their light, and they were going to need a lot more HYPC to do a lot of things. So in order to glue those pieces together, the actual license, whoever holds a license can either take it and deploy it themselves. Of course, that's always an option. And the other option would be like, how about we put it in a pool and let the pool take care of it? Okay, so the pool will have all the other components. So on the token, there is something that I felt some of the questions from that they're coming to me, because folks, they come to me with those questions that perhaps I can answer it here. Is that the folks, they want to understand, since this pool is borrowing from Treasury, can folks borrow directly from the Treasury? Right. Well, if we were to look at the conditions of that borrowing, they're actually smart contract guarantees that the Treasury is getting paid back, because it is from actually token holders that they actually can do the borrowing. It's not like some external party. So if you are a token holder and you still have some vesting, it is that is the eligibility is to that entity to have that borrowing at a very small percentage, and not to a party that is not that an external party. We wouldn't be able to justify it if we were to give it to external. Of course, we need to make sure that the internal folks, that they're benefiting first. We're working for everyone here, and if somebody is a holder of HRPC, we're working for that somebody, you know. So so then that way, the Treasury, if you think about it, is it a good deal for the Treasury to make that 0.5%, knowing that only time is a factor for the Treasury to get paid back? You know, of course, it's a good deal for the Treasury. So I can look anyone in the eye and say, like, that's why we're doing this deal. And we cannot, and there's a finite amount of how much we can do, because we've allocated in our tokenomics certain items that we have the liberty to manage. Basically, people, they're entrusting us with those buckets that you guys can use them, you know, the tokens to go to the liquidity fund or whatnot. What are you gonna do with it, Toufii? Well, this is what we're gonna do. The first thing is like gonna enable the nodes to go up long before we've promised people, because those nodes, they're hungry, they want those tokens. So the first audit on a larger sum came with certain recommendations. Of course, were they necessary? Those recommendations, they were not necessary. It's basically, it's like you, instead of getting 10 out of 10, you get like 9.9 out of 10. But that's, to us, we feel like we need to get them to go back. So then the HyperPG folks are going again to fix that, not fix it, to respond to that recommendation and to receive the 10 out of 10 in the audit. A 10 out of 10 in the audit historically means that folks that looked at that smart contract, they know their stuff, and they have a huge sum of insurance when that, you know, entrust them with their knowledge of their stuff, and knowing that the smart contract is going to execute exactly as it says. And that's one of the reasons for that delay. But so that's I kind of said two things in the same statement here. So it's like I felt like I answered why the Treasury lends to the token holders, and at the same time, what's the reason for that delay that is coming in. But what's coming next is the exciting stuff that is also going through audits as well, which is like the license and the splitting of the license and the enablement of the license to be put in a pool and all of the stuff. Those are very exciting stuff, which I'd like to talk about on this.
Well, I don't want to hold you to a timeline, but if you had a loose estimate as to this, so basically the smart contracts were audited, came back with some recommendations. You guys went in, retooled some things because you want a perfect 10 out of 10. You resubmitted. There's going to be a second set or third set, whatever, of audits until this stuff comes back perfect. You would assume what a week? Is this a week or is this like a 6 weeks and 8 weeks? What is
No, it's
how long do these usually take?
they could come back on Monday and say it's like, okay, well, now we're good to go. You get that 10 out of 10. Like guys, they came to me and they said, hey, you know, do you want to go? Do you want us to go live with this? And I'm like, I would like I could have said yes and taken that like a little bit of that risk, but I think if we were to be honest with ourselves and work towards that trajectory, I call it the $96 trajectory, which is like the license is $96, which we work it backwards. In 10 years, that license is going to be sitting next to a single HYPC, and together they need to be 96 plus 96. So if we're working towards a HYPC to be 96, we need to be extremely careful and not make mistakes. 9.9 out of 10 is okay, but 10 out of 10 at this stage is a lot better. Maybe in 10 years, if we were to in one of the branches, we can tolerate a 9.9 out of 10. But right now, I think I said to them, go back and do the iterations and come back with a 10 out of 10. We that comes in at a very high cost is 1 week, and in the world that we live in, 1 week is a lot. 1 week of tilling is a lot.
It's an eternity.
Right. It's like, so
but I would urge people, especially when they're looking at the progress you guys are making. I try to remind people this was never meant to go live right now. All of this stuff was meant to be ready in the next 18 months. We're only 4 months in. So people should be actually quite excited that you guys are as far along as you are at this. We're only 123 days in.
Right. Even more, I would tell you that like many people, they built layer one in the past. I shouldn't say many. Everyone that built a layer one in the past, when they provide you with a route towards their native, it's a one-way. Everyone. There isn't a single layer one that they said, hey, you have an RC20 and here you can cross that bridge towards our thing and then you can come back to the RC20 if you want to. They haven't done that. They've given a one-way stream, which makes it a lot easier for them to do that. Like we could have done that too. You burn your tokens, you're done. Now you have your native token, the HYPC native. But instead, we feel like we have to always evolve, kind of like science. Science is cumulative, and if the guys historically they've never done that, but that's in the past. Today the expectations are higher, so we feel like the bridge that we're building is actually can be traversed backwards, and that's because we have a lot of confidence that people when they cross the native token, they will be extremely happy that they're not gonna want to come back. But having the route to come back is something that we elected to have it, and we will always have it. So that's something that is exciting because we did not expect to actually have the native token up and running this early. What people they're doing when actually the tilling is doing, your token is actually traversing that bridge and the native token is actually put to work. Is it put to work with its full capacity? Of course not, but it's at least it's put to work. So that's the thing that I'm extremely proud of the team that they were able to get this early with all the tests necessary to cross that bridge and back. And the other thing that is that will be coming soon is the ability for people to have the software license splittable in the code to split it is already there. It's been there for a long time. But the code that is there that it's audited is not there. I mean, the code is there, but like the audit still needs to go through the audit. and that can also enable people on the right side. So let's say Monday we come back and we start plugging into those machines and they're running. That's great. You have a master node running master node running master node. That's fantastic. But then during that period of like the first 3 months or 6 months or whatnot, that people they're gaining this phenomenal uptime may feel like they may want to split their master node to 512 and plug them directly into machines, or maybe have them liberated for whatever reason that they may want to plug them into their own home machine. They can, the regular node can be, or into those hyper appliances, which is the hyper box, which now we're calling it hyper AI box, by the way, for copyright reasons, because apparently hyperbox has been taken. So so then that splittable element will be audited, of course, on Ethereum, on Polygon, on ADA. It was audited in the past on Algo, but it's irrelevant at this point because we're not really giving it on Algo anyway. Nobody's really doing anything on Algo, but we feel like between ETH and ADA and Matic, we're covering a lot of grounds, and that's when people they say, so wait a second, so we thought you're a ledgerless blockchain. What is that? You're using this ledger. Well, let me remind everyone, if you were to be living in 1991 or 1992 and you hear about this Toufii guy who's building email, and you may want to try this email, well, I can fax you the purchase order. That doesn't mean that the email is dependent on the fax, but I can still fax you the purchase order. Okay? So ledger-based systems, they're great. They can play a phenomenal role. They can actually facilitate the accounts payables, accounts receivable, doing all the stuff. So we're trying to utilize them for what they're good at and not discount of what they're good at. But at the same time, if we continue as a civilization to evolve and build things that can actually be interoperable and enable folks to do peer-to-peer without having to depend on a ledger, the ability for people to utilize existing systems that they're plugged into the financial system and all that is actually a good idea. And that's why we enable all of the as many chains as possible to manage the nodes that people are buying, as opposed to the old school accounts payable, accounts receivable, invoice, all of the stuff. You don't really need any of the stuff, because guess what? If you own the NFT that is actually a globally unique record that actually gives you the guarantee that you own that piece of software, that's a lot stronger than any local law that says, oh, well, the contract that I have with Microsoft says that I own the license. Well, we've seen what happened historically. People that they're in the enterprise space, you own a license in the United States and somebody copies you in some other country, what are you going to do about it? So here we're giving technological elements that people can own globally, and that's a lot faster method to have management over the software sales. So that's that will be coming next, and of course with that there will be the ability for people to plug their licenses into pools, and then the benefit there can be great. That this is when we start touching on that wealth creation that we talk about with over the weekend with Brandon. You and I and Brandon were talking with Evan, and we were discussing how whether it is going to be ERC 721 or ERC 1155. I think the current setup is the ERC 721, but the marriage of those two might be represented with 1155 is a lot better, because it can give people the ability to do a lot of things. So when you're marrying the tokens to that license, the representation of that marriage might be better off with an ERC 1155, and that's what we will be announcing next. So there's a lot of stuff on.
Well, and we have to tell people too, Toufii, when we're talking about NFTs, we're not talking about monkey cartoons. And a lot of people just think, I don't want just a photograph. That is not what this is. What we're talking about is a unique data element, a unique item. And
Right.
the way I explain it is, if I loan Toufii a 10 bucks, I give him a $10 bill and I say, hey, next week, Toufii, give me 10 bucks back. Any $10 will do. 2 5s, 5 2s, 10 1s. But if I give him a $10 bill and I say, I need this one with this serial number back, it is
Right.
now non-fungible. It's non-tradable. And that is a unique item. And so being
Right.
able to have a unique data item is incredibly important, especially with all of the really cool things you can do and make them smart contract based. So
Right.
yeah.
Remember, we're using it to actually manage the software. So if somebody's like today, and for the last 25 years, you can call Microsoft and say, hello, I would like a license for SQL Server. They will send you the license for SQL Server. Okay. And then you go through the accounts payables, accounts receivable. Now you own the license of SQL Server, what can enable you to manage, let's say, 1 million users. If you want 2 million users, you need to have 2 licenses. Okay. That method that they use to sell you the software and send you the software and all that is replaced by an NFT, non-fungible token. It's the method of selling the software, not the software itself. Beautiful. That NFT can do great work at managing that software. Okay, so that's what we use it for in this specific. We use it in the bridges, we use it in all kinds of stuff, but that's specifically for the software license. We use it for that reason.
Can you give us, as we wrap up today, can you give us just a little hint at some of the other things that might be coming from HyperPG, since we're on the HyperPG kind of discussion right now?
Yes, there's something that that several folks, they approached me a while back in saying that since HyperPG is gluing this piece and gluing that piece and gluing this, wouldn't that mean that HyperPG itself can actually have, um, let's say, a BTC pool and a USDC pool that can actually be utilized from one aspect, people with all smart contract and all that, and then from the other side to actually build all of those things. So what do we mean by that? Let's say we get saturated by having everybody who's got software licenses to be plugging them into the pool. But then there's somebody who comes in and says, like, I have extra tokens, I want to plug them. What do you do about that? Well, imagine HyperPG has the ability to buy extra licenses. It's always this kind of, and then it has the ability to buy extra tokens. It has the ability to buy extra hardware. It has the ability, it's basically, it will have the ability to fill in the gaps without having to wait and pray. That's something that can be extremely profitable.
So HyperPG really can expand to solve a bunch of slight inequities in balance across kind of the ecosystem of beneficiaries.
Right. And it wouldn't be necessarily like the super duper like large pool, because here we're talking about aspects. If you start adding them like from like tokens and software licenses and all that, they add up to the hundreds of millions with HyperPG's management. But the pool itself, if it's a 25 to $35 million pool, it's sufficient to kind of keep filling in those gaps. Now it needs to buy a little more hardware. Now it needs to buy rent a facility or whatnot. By always filling up the gaps, it can have phenomenal return on that, because remember, it is playing a very good service for people that they have very good return. Well, it can also play with that as well. So then it can accelerate them too, because then they don't have to wait for let's say tomorrow you and I were talking to somebody and they provide us with like hardware that is like 3 times more than we can handle. That's great. Well, why should we wait to fill in the gap? Maybe HyperPG can actually fill the gap very quickly. You see what I mean?
So perhaps between HyperPG and the Treasury, there's basically no stone would be unturned.
Right. Exactly.
Or maybe better is that you wouldn't miss any opportunity time. Like there would
Right.
be no opportunity cost because one of those two or both even together could take advantage of any situation that might present itself.
Correct. Yeah. So it's super exciting stuff, and that will be coming out soon. And we're going to have a lot of collaboration with folks from the industry. And when I say from the industry here, it's like I kind of combine like the actual AI and crypto, I should say, from both industries, because they don't necessarily work that well together. You'd be surprised. Like, like the AI folks are on one side, the crypto side are on the other side. We're everybody's darlings. We're agnostic. We work with both. We're here to add value to both. So it'll be exciting.
Well, Toufii, I'm excited about it. I'm very, for many reasons, personal and professional, I'm quite excited about HyperPG and getting everything. But I'm also on the side of, I always err on the side of caution, especially with software. A 9 out of 10 is not a 10 out of 10. I'm okay waiting for the 10 out of 10s.
Right. It's extremely important at this stage, Nick. There's a lot of things that we want to make sure that we take care of them. It's kind of like when the plane is taking off, that's the time that you really watch, and you don't see the pilot doing the takeoff. You're like, I'm gonna like go and go to the washroom. No. Once you're over like 10,000 feet, okay, we want to do the 9.9 out of 10. That's okay, but not while it's taking off.
Toufii, again, thank you for your time. I look forward to doing this again next week, and full speed ahead.
Yeah, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Yes.
All right,
bright and early.
Bye.
All right. Good night.
Are you tired of all the uneducated noise you're getting from the droves of YOLO meme coin peddling douchebag gurus out there trying to use you as their exit liquidity? Would you rather learn a competent university level set of skills that will guide you in managing and investing for the rest of your life? Join us 3 days a week at Digital Investor. Develop your knowledge of game theory, cognitive bias, macroeconomics, monetary theory, investment theory, psychology of the crowds, and more. For more info on Digital Investor and how it can help you, reach out at nickblacknext.com.